Okay, so we're back. Pompadour has a new shaped face, as you can see. His ears are now full. He has his eyes. He has quite a round, like a Roman nose at the moment, but that will change once we put the eyes in. So he's going to have his little holes stitched up, which were made by the glue. And then we're going to pop in his new eyes. So I'm just going to stitch these up here. And what I do, you have to be very careful because it is old fabric. So if you pull it too tight, you're going to end up just ripping straight through it. So if I'm just going to gently pull it and try and get some give behind it as well, so it's not too tight, but it is closed. So leave this bit out here, and I'll show you why in a moment. I'm just going to do like a star shape on this to try and just pull his eye back together again so the hole is sealed, and then obviously the eye itself will go there. So you very gently pull it this way, a little star going across to this side. I'm making it the stitch quite a big stitch again because the fabric's so brittle that you will end up with it ripping if you pull it too hard. So if you just gently now pull these together, very gently. And then what I do here, now that's closed, if I lay him down, be very gentle. It's always a worry because you do worry that it's going to snap. So now if I trim this bit off here, and then I'm going to twist this around so it stays nice and tight, and then knot it. And it snapped, but thankfully it snapped in the right place. That's quite handy. And then, if I did my needle, which I've now lost, I'm going to thread it through again and do the same thing again, just to give him a little bit more strength. Again, keep this bit out and go across, just making a little star. I managed to get most of the glue off, which is quite handy. So I'm trying to keep the star roughly the same size as the eyes, so they'll be obviously hidden behind the eye. It's not ideal, but there's a hole and we have to deal with it, and I don't want to take his head apart and line the inside of his head because obviously that defeats the object of trying to do minimal work on him. But this should just hold the hole and not cause any damage to what is already quite a brittle fabric. Okay, so I'm going to take this off and then knot this one up as well, pull it nice and gently. He's been a very good patient. Now with all these bits that are sticking out, obviously one snapped off, so there should be 4 there normally, but we've only got 3. I will get the needle again and we will put them back into his head. So if ever he needs restoring again, they can see how I've done it and they can then do that. So I'm going to push it back through and out. And the next one. Back through. Out. Final one. Through and out. And you trim these off close to the base as possible. There you go, and his eye is stitched up. It's almost a bit like darning, I suppose you could say, but you need something for the eye to be able, when we put the eye in and we pull, we need some pressure for it to be able to sit on it, but at the same time I don't want to damage him any more than he's already damaged, because these holes are, you know, you can see why they've had to stick the eye on, because the holes are quite big. So the original eyes would have just popped straight through and out the back of his, well, they wouldn't have gone out the back of his head. To be fair, they're probably in his head. So if we were to take him apart one day, his original eyes are probably in his head, but I'm not going to do that, as I say, because we don't know enough about him. So we're just going to make him look good, make him as strong as we can, and then hopefully find out a little bit about who he actually is. So we just need to get the same thing again. And once again, I'll get Mr. Moon to speed this bit up for you, so you haven't got to endure another eye stitching. Okay, so he's had his little holes stitched up as best I can do them without damaging him anymore. And now we're going to give him his eyes. Now, I try and use everything on my bears is traditional. I even try and use antique cottons and threads when I can. But the one thing that I don't is for their eyes. I actually use dental floss, which is very, very modern. But I think that having young children about and the fear of these eyes, when you see how small they can be and the risk of them coming out and being eaten by a child, I just couldn't bear the thought. So I do use dental floss to put the eyes in, because it's so strong. You cannot snap this stuff. It's impossibly strong to snap. So yeah, so it's probably the only thing I don't do traditionally. I use Singer sewing machines, old-fashioned tools, old-fashioned methods. Everything I do is old-fashioned, apart from the dental floss, which is a very random and strange thing to use. But I really would never forgive myself if one of the kids got hold of him and pulled his eye out and ate it. It would just be terrible. So for that reason, I always use dental floss to put their eyes in. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose some eyes that are going to fit him. These look quite nice. They're quite a nice size. Nice little black boot button ones. Yep, I think we'll go for those. Those look quite nice. I don't think he'd suit orange ones. I don't know. But no, they're not traditional. So no, we're not going for that. We're going to go for his original coloured eyes. I'll close that back up. Right, this bit you need a very long and very sharp needle. And what I always do is I thread the eye. There are lots of different methods. You can go in through the back on the same piece of string, or dental floss in my case, or you can put them in the way I'm going to. I always do it this way, just because I know then where the eye is going to go. So I lock it on like that, so it's not going to come off. And you need to trim the ends so they're level. Put them on your very long needle. And then this can be painful. Anyone squeamish out there, don't look. Choose where your eye is going to go, which I think is about there. Now this bit's quite hard because the amount of stuffing that's in his head, you've got to try and get the needle through the stuffing, and it can sometimes go straight through and other times it won't. Right, now here it's going to come out the back of his head, but what we want it to come out right at the base of his head if we can. I can't see it. Hang on. This is where it's going to stab me in the thumb. That's a bit high, so we want it to go down a bit. Sorry if you just got a picture of my arm. I'm trying to... Aha, there you go. So, because it's inevitable, you're going to cause a dent in the back of their head when you tie the eyes off. You can't help that. So if you try and put it as low as possible, then it's not as obvious. And then when you pull the eye up, it will pop in place on his head. So you have your first eye. And you need to work out what side's the side that's not attached. And pull it through. That's it, this one. And you'll see what I mean by when his definition comes back now. So when we pull it, you can see by stuffing his head, it pulls his eye right in tight and will give him back his nose and his shape. So that one's in place. So now this is the fun bit, trying to get the other eye to line up, which I've never been very good at. I have to do this a few times. So I'm going to try. And if it doesn't work, then again, Nick can speed you up and we'll do it. So you haven't got to sit and watch me try and 30 times to put two eyes so they're level. Hold on. Okay. We'll tie a knot net. Put this so it's level. The beauty with this is once you've finished, even if you look at them and you think, I'm not so sure actually, I don't think those eyes are level, I can take them out and go again. So, because they're not glued or they're not the safety eyes, you can actually do have a little bit of, you can play with them. Right, so now this is the bit that's quite hard to get right if you can't master it like myself. So I always go across in the middle of the eye and then push that through there. Now the eye's slightly on the seam. It's slightly on the seam there, so that should be about right, I think. And then the art is getting it back out next to the other one. Aha! Look at that, first time. Let's hope it works and his eyes are level. Let's have a look. Oh, it's fallen off. Look at that, Pompadour. You can see again. Okay, so now we're going to tie the eyes off. Now he's got his eyes on. This is where you have to be a little bit rough, but at the same time be aware he's very old. So I'm going to stand up for this. So what I want to do is I want the eyes to be nice and tight so they give him the definition in his face. So you pull and see again with the dental floss, you're able to pull quite tight without the risk of it snapping. So if you look, so these eyes are good, and to push them in, make sure they're in the right place. Okay, and I can give them a real, wrap them around my fingers a few times, and real pull them nice and tight. Then if I twist this like this, hold my thumb on, you knot it through. Again. See, I get a bit carried away with knots. I worry so much it's going to fall out. I end up with a lump of knots on their back. Okay, so now his eyes are in and knotted in place. He has his definition back in his nose. So we now need to get rid of the loose stuff on the back. So we get our long needle, cut these so they're level. Put this on there. And I always leave quite a bit, because if anyone was to have to restore him again or his eye fell out, there would be enough here for them to play with to be able to put the original eye back in if they still had it, which they should have, because obviously I've knotted it on the end of the dental floss. So if we just push it gently through, sorry Pompadour, this is nearly over and you'll be able to see again. Okay, and then I'm going to pull that through there so it comes out, and this bit here, this little bit on the end, can just be trimmed off. There you go, and you can barely see, there is a slight indentation on the back of his head, but it's not anything you're going to notice. There we have Pompadour with his new eyes. So now we just need to find him some ears and stitch on his nose. I always do the nose last and the little mouth last, because I think that is what gives them real character. Obviously their eyes give them character, but their nose is an important feature on a teddy bear. So we're going to do the ears. So I'm going to turn you off, I'm going to get the fabric, and we're going to see if we can match the fabric to the sides of his head and give him some new ears. Okay, so now we're at the stage where we're going to do his ears, and I'm on a bit of a quandary, because traditionally I'd want to use mohair, which is this piece I have here. I don't have a great deal of mohair left at the moment. I've got an order coming in, and that's about the closest I can get to his colour, which is a bit wavy, and it's the wrong colour. The actual fabric itself is slightly wrong. This one, however, which is synthetic, is almost exact, and I think potentially could be quite a good match. I don't know what to do. So I'm not going to, when I would do it, I wouldn't create his ears so they were full. We want to distress them slightly. You don't want them full of the fluff because it just wouldn't look right, because obviously he's got lots of bald patches on him. So what I do is I use the back of the material, and then I will, with this wire brush, which I don't use on the actual, the old bears. I use them on the bears I make myself, because they're really good for pulling out seams, but on the old bears you just damage them. So, but with this, you can, if you rub the other side of the fabric, you actually pull through some hair, or some mohair, or some fabric, depending on what you're using. So you can give it that sort of distressed look. So as you can see from this one, it's now got hair sticking through it, but I think it's just the wrong colour, which is really very frustrating. But let's try this one. The beauty with this, I can take the ears off again once I've got the matching mohair, but just so we can finish him for today, so you can see him, we'll just see if we can pull some of it through. I think I'm going to make one of each, and then I'm going to decide off the back of what one looks better once they're made. So the next part is we're going to make ears. First of all, we need to work out roughly how big we want the ears. He's got quite a large lump on each side of his head, and I'm thinking, looking at the markings where they once were, they were quite big ears. I'm thinking about this big, and probably quite well rounded as well. So I'm going to sketch out some ears on a piece of paper. We'll draw them onto the fabric, and then we'll stitch them together, turn them in the way we want them, and put them on him and make a decision what ones we're going to use. So I'll just go and get some of my paper, and then we will be back. Okay, so here we are. I use Rupert's old drawings, save wasting them. Obviously the best ones we keep, and they're all on the wall, but these ones more scribbles than drawings. So we're going to decide on roughly how big his ear is, and I just need something to lay across to just roughly measure from there. It's probably about as long as that. Then we make a decision on sort of ear we're going to go for. I'm going to go for like that, I think, and we're going to cut it out. I always cut it out a bit bigger, because you're obviously going to stitch, you need to stitch and then be able to turn it in side out, and you lose some of the size by doing that. So if we just cut this one out, put it on him. Let's have a look. So once it's on, you'll lose a lot of the length of it, so it'll be a bit shorter. I think that looks all right. Right, all we can do is try. So now we're going to draw onto the fabric and then cut it out. The box on the floor. So we're going to go for this fabric first, which is the mohair, which I do want to use. I'm hoping it will look all right. So we will draw onto this. I'll just do my felt tip. Put it back. So we're just going to do one ear for now. Turn it over. We'll do one ear on each bit of fabric. Now when you're cutting mohair, this is quite hard to cut, because you don't want to be, if you cut the actual fibre, the hair itself, it ends up straight and it sort of looks blunt. So you need to try and cut around it gently without causing it to cut the actual hair. So it's quite an art. Took a while to get the hang of it, and it takes a long time because it's lots of little cuts. You can feel it push underneath the mohair on the other side, so you don't actually cut the pile. You only cut the fabric. So we're just going to go all the way around. Again, I'm going to get Nick to speed this up for you so you don't have to sit and watch me painstakingly trim the fabric out. Okay, so we have two different ears, one mohair, one synthetic, and we're going to see what one looks best. And sadly, I do think it's going to be the synthetic, which is quite frustrating really, but it definitely matches. But we will see. There is hope that it will be mohair. So I'm going to move him, and the next thing I'm going to do is bring in Margaret, my sewing machine. I have many sewing machines. I think I have in total about 12 Singer sewing machines, all in working order. And Dorothy May, my machine here, I will introduce you to her, is my pride and joy. And if my house burnt down, obviously apart from my children, it would be the first thing I'd be coming in to get. But Margaret over here, this was Nick's mum's sewing machine, and I love her to pieces. She's small and handy, so when I'm at the desk I can just bring her in and use her and put her away. When I'm stitching big artist bears and I'm actually working on bears myself that I've created myself, I will use Dorothy May, because I don't know, I just find I work very well with her. She's like an old shoe that fits very comfortably. So me and Dorothy May are at one. I'll go to my grave with this sewing machine. I want her to come with me. So, but at the moment we're going to use Margaret today to help us with the ears. So I will turn you off and then I'll come back on when she's all ready to go. Okay, so Margaret's all set up, and I'm going to start stitching his new ears. I'm going to take the iPhone out of the tripod and hand it to Charlie so he can actually film me stitching the ears, because you won't be able to see it from where you are. So hopefully you'll be able to get a better feel for the old Singer sewing machine once Charlie's taken over the filming. Okay, so we've got one ear stitched. Trim the excess off. I haven't been too specific. I didn't pin them together or anything. I just literally sew them together. Hold on. Okay, so we've got one. So that's if we want it with its fabric, with its pile on show. And that's if we want it without its pile on show. Let's have a little look. I'm not convinced about this one. we'll do the other one and see. Okay, let's have a look. I think you're going to have synthetic ears, which pains me to do it, but it actually matches. So he's going to have synthetic ears. This is Charlie. She's bringing me in a cup of coffee. I need it. It's been too stressful. Coffee and chocolate. What more could a girl ask for? Just pop it there, darling, please. Okay, so the decision has been made to use synthetic ears. As much as I don't really want to do it, it does match almost exactly. I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up quite well, but it's a really, really good match. And I think I'd be silly to put mohair ears on him that don't match when I've got material that is almost exactly the same as this. It even looks, when it's the other way around, it even looks a bit aged. So we're going to go with that. He'd have to have modern ears and a traditional body. But seeing as he's mine and he's going to be staying in my room, I can't see it being too much of a problem. And as he didn't have ears in the beginning, I think this is a very good match. So I think he'll be pleased. So I'm just going to stitch the other one and then we'll pop them on and then we will do his nose and his mouth and he will be finished. Okay, so here we are with 2 ears. Nice shiny new ears. And I'm going to stitch them on. And because this is a newer synthetic fabric, you can actually use this wire brush to brush the seams out, so you then end up with no seam. You wouldn't want to do this on an old bear, but on the younger bears, or the newer bears, or newer fabric, it's not so much of a problem. And then you can cover it up so it doesn't look quite so obvious, this seam. That's it. So I've got one ear here, I've got this ready. Thought I'd do it before I turned the camera on because it takes me ages to thread a needle. And then we're going to position the ear where we want it. So I'm going to try and get it where it originally would have been. It looks like it was sort of around here, I think. I think it was quite a low ear. So now when I do this, I always put them in place and lay them flat over the bear. And I go on the inside of the ear. You need a lot of cotton for this. Well, I need a lot of cotton. As I say, other restorers have their own ways of restoring. So this is how I do it. And I wrap it through to make sure it's quite strong. Then I'd always do a second one, make sure it won't come undone. Right, and now you can start stitching. I'll use these suture needles or half moon needles because I find them a lot easier when you're trying to sort of bring it up through the fabric and then onto the ear. Got a little loop there, and you pull one of these and that will go. That's it. And once the ear's sitting up, you won't see this stitching because we're going to pull it back and shape it. Again, you need to remember that the fabric that you're actually working with is quite old, so you don't want to pull too tight or you just rip through it. I'm halfway through and I just want to check that it's in the right sort of place, which I think it is. And I'll continue. And at the very end, I want to try and tuck the ear in a little bit, just so it makes more of a corner than a straight line. So the ear actually gets a bit of definition, because otherwise you end up with just two flat ears. So if you try and got stuck, create a little bit of definition by bending the ear in, you'll see. And the beauty with this, as it is a synthetic material, we can actually play with it a bit to create the shape we would like on his head. I'm going to go back in the other way now, just knock that off. Finger on it to hold it nice and tight. Right, and then I'm going to put the needle through and then bring it back out at the base of the ear where we started. This might be where you need a set of pliers to help pull it through if it gets stuck. And then you can stretch the ear to the shape you would like. I think that looks pretty good. I think we'll bring it down a little bit here. I think it could do with being a little tiny bit longer. So we'll thread it through, catch the material down the bottom, and then put it tight. Oh, look at you with your new ear. And up through here. Ears took me ages to master. I cannot tell you how many ears I chopped up and ripped in temper. Not that you'd believe it, I haven't got a temper at all. But, oh, they're so frustrating. But once I mastered it, and I realised using the same piece of cotton is a big thing. Don't use lots of cotton. Don't sort of do it if you think, oh, I've finished, and then go again. Try and keep the cotton on and get the ear right before you cut the cotton. You'll find that it makes a big difference. There, look at you. So he has his ear, one ear. So we'll knot it off at the end, like we have done with all the others. Again, I'm going to push it through and out the other side. Then I can trim that. And the same with this one, we're going to trim it off so it's level and then stitch it back through. one ear. He's finding it hard to sit because his head's inside's taken out. There you go. One ear. So I'll do the same with the other ear. I'll get Daddy Moon to speed it up so you haven't got to sit here for another 10 minutes and watch the ear being stitched on. And then we're on to his nose. And finally giving him back his claws and his features, and he will be sympathetically restored. But and then he can have just a surface clean. Nothing too much because I don't want to ribbon him. So there you go. I'll get stitching the other ear. Okay, so Pompadour has two very lovely little ears, and I'm glad I chose that fabric because you wouldn't know that it wasn't his fabric. So I think that's the way to go. As much as it's not the traditional stuff, it has really finished him off well. He looks lovely. So now I'm just going to put his nose in. I'm going to try and stitch over this because it's his history. I don't really want to take it away if I can avoid it. And again, I might damage the material underneath, so I'm going to do my best to try and stitch over it and incorporate this into his new nose and his new mouth. So we will see. So I'm going to get on with that, and again I shall get Nick to speed it up so you can watch without having to wait. Okay, so I'm just going to do his nose, and as I said earlier, having looked at it, you can actually see his original nose was brown, so I've got the best match here to do it. And what I'm going to do is I just run this, it's sort of a waxy soap. So I'm going to run this over the nose, the thread first, which just helps it get a bit of stick, because you need to, when you're doing it, they've got to be very neat, and this helps you just keep the thread straight and neat rather than it sort of overlapping. I find it really, really useful. So, and it smells lovely. So probably more of the reason why I use it, because it smells so nice. But I shall do that now, and again, Nick's going to speed you up and you can watch what happens. So what I'm doing here is I'm twisting the two pieces of cotton together to create his little mouth. Now I've had to change needles, so this is going to go in here, and then I think out. Looking at it, it was quite a low triangular mouth, so not quite there, a bit too low. About there, I think. We'll soon see. So we've twisted this round. I need to pull it through. Now what you need to do, the art of noses is taking your time and being really, really particular, because you can very easily destroy all your hard work if you don't get your nose right. Okay, so he's got that bit there, so now I need to twist again. This is what I do, it's not what everyone does, but I like this effect because it makes it quite thick. Put it back in the hole. Now this is the bit that's difficult, because you're trying to marry up the mouth so it actually matches, so they look the same. So otherwise you end up with a skew-if mouth. Right, let's have a look. Pull this one up. Pull that one there. That's it, that looks about the same, I think. Okay, and then we're going to twist this one. Take it back through the same hole. Out through the top of his nose is where we want it to go. As close to the top of his nose as we can get it. That's it. Oh, you wouldn't believe you can get a sweat on from fixing a bear. That's it. He's got still some glue which I've just felt on him, which I'll just do my best to get off. I'll trim this off first. And then we need to just get this bit of glue, again without damaging him. It's just a big sticky piece of glue. Oh, I thought we'd finished. He's going to have to lose a little bit of fluff there, because otherwise that's just going to, it sits out. We're going to cut it off very gently. That's it. Wouldn't even know. It's only lost a little bit. His mouth's all done, and his nose is all done. Right, there's a couple of little black threads here that I can now remove because I've done the rest of the nose. Get those old ones out. There you go. He has a nose, he has eyes, and he has ears. And I think he looks quite pleased with himself, even with his little frown. And that's definitely how it was before, because you can see where it was bald. So now it's a surface clean, fix his growler and put his claws back on. But for now, I think we'll leave it there, and I can do that for another video for you to see. But here he is. So I think he looks a lot happier. So thank you very much for watching, and yeah, we'll be back next time. I'm not sure what we'll be doing. It's the Moon family, we do everything, so it could be horses or a walk or a bear or anything. But yes, we'll come back in the next couple of days and show you something else that we get up to as a family. Bye!